Super Bowl 53 is in the rearview mirror, and with that, all attention turns to the future. For the Eagles, the first thing on a very long to-do list is solving a Nick Foles dilemma that has sent media, fans, and, well, probably aliens from another galaxy into complete disarray. A recent report from NFL Network's Ian Rapoport stated that the team would be looking to in fact pick up the $20 million option on Nick Foles and ultimately trade him. Great. Then Rapoport stated that Foles will look to buy himself out of that option, choosing his own destiny, which left us nowhere? Here's everything you need to know about the Nick Foles scenario and what's likely to happen over the next few weeks. As of right now, Nick Foles is technically a pending free agent. The Super Bowl 52 MVP does have a $20 million option to his name that, if activated by the Eagles, would keep him on the roster for the time being. Now, why would the Eagles do this? Well, there's two real options. One, to try and cash in on Foles and get some trade value instead of just letting him walk into free agency. And two, maybe, just maybe, they restructure a deal to permanently keep him as a backup to Wentz, which certainly makes sense after 2 seasons of showing just how important not just a competent backup is, but one you can put all your chips on in a tight situation. Now, the important thing to note here is that the Eagles would be due a compensatory pick in 2019 if Foles walks out. That's an estimated 3rd round pick as of right now, although the formula for calculating it is very misty and no one really knows how it works. So if the Eagles pick up the option, for them to get any kind of value on a future trade, they would physically have to gain capital worth more than a 2019 3rd round pick to even make it remotely worthwhile. And this is where the fun begins. So strap yourselves in, here's a look at every possible scenario and why it may or may not happen. As many of you know, if Foles buys his way out of the option, which would see him give back that $2 million signing bonus he was given at the start of 2018, then the Eagles are left with nothing and Foles walks into free agency on horseback into a lovely sunset. This in itself creates a problem for Howie Roseman, because if you're trying to auction Foles out to the highest bidder right now or post $20 million option, why would a team want to part ways with anything? You know, we're talking a pick, a player, anything in that region, for a player they can acquire without the immediate $20 million cap hit and just start a fresh negotiation. There's no need for them to give up a draft pick and a player or any kind of capital if in a couple of weeks' time Foles is going to select his own destiny anyway. So the Eagles already start these negotiations with little leverage, and that's important, and we'll get to why later. Some of you may have read this already, but I did write a piece over at my site phillysportsnetwork.com, where there will be a link in the description, where I spoke to numerous people around the league to get their insight. What I was told actually correlates with the recent Rapoport report, but not for the reasons you may think. One source told me that most teams don't feel Foles can be anything special outside of that West Coast system. If you think in Philadelphia, he was successful in 2012 and 2013, then obviously there was the Rams situation, goes back to Kansas City with Doug Peterson, succeeds again, and then goes back to Philadelphia where, lo and behold, it's Dougie P running that Andy Reid system. So teams are salivating over Carson Wentz, and if there's an Eagles quarterback they want to acquire, it's the Ginger Ninja. Nick Foles isn't the man they want to put all their chips in, especially if you're going to be bridging the gap between a veteran QB and the future of a franchise. Another source told me that the entire reason Foles signed that rework contract to begin with was so that he could dictate his own future. That $20 million option is the equivalent of a franchise tag, but a mutual one. If Nick Foles were to rescind that offer and then be franchise tagged for the Eagles for a trade, it would leave Foles absolutely infuriated that Howie Roseman has essentially stripped him of that optionality, stabbed him in the back, and trying to force a cash-in on a team that by that point has already had 2 windows to acquire Foles and couldn't agree on a price. If you're Miami or Jacksonville and you attempt to sign a free agent Foles, can't get it done. Then you're looking to give up maybe a 3rd round pick due to the option pickup, can't get it done. And then still they're knocking at the door. This isn't a marketplace. And Nick Foles is going to have his price driven down and down and down to a point where the Eagles are taking such an unnecessary gamble that instead of having that 3rd round compensatory pick in 2019, they may be stinging themselves with a cap hit they really don't want to pay if they can't get Foles off their books. A lot of people point to that possibility of a tag and trade like it's some mythical Madden move that works every single time. Plot twist, it doesn't, and there's one scenario everybody brings up, which is back in 2009 when Bill Belichick tagged and traded Matt Castle. Now that trade was later dubbed the fleece job, and with very good reason. Matt Castle and Mike Vrabel were traded to the Kansas City Chiefs in exchange for a 2nd round pick, which ended up becoming Patrick Chung. But that trade was a case of lightning striking perfectly and never again. It shouldn't have happened, were the words from one source that was very close to that situation. Another dove a little deeper, stating they got Pioli to make the deal, but they had very little interest. The market didn't open up as Belichick had hoped, despite Castle coming off a season where he stepped in for an injured Tom Brady, leaving the Pats to an 11-5 record. Now that is something that is very poignant with this Eagles scenario, because Foles has come in, obviously, won a Super Bowl, and then somehow rescued a dead season and sent it to the playoffs. So there has to be value there. But if Matt Castle didn't get value and a lightning strike hit the NFL, we've already seen the consequences of that trade, and if it has been literally dubbed by NFL personnel as a fleece job, a team's really going to take that same risk again. At the time of signing this reworked contract, Nick Foles wanted to start once more in the NFL, and that was a consensus I got from talking to people. It's hard to imagine that taste really dwindling after having another scenario where the weight of a city is on his shoulders in the postseason. That's 2 years in a row that's happened for Nick Foles, and the Eagles have been extremely kind to him. Teammates have restructured their deals so he can get his Super Bowl payday. The Eagles have paid him a bonus that he missed by a few snaps, and of course he's still here with a mutual option that is very, very generous. But eventually there has to come a point where the Eagles are bending over backwards for a man at the centre of the team who in the grand scheme of things really shouldn't be right now. For me, this recent report is simple to decipher. The Eagles are really trying to drum up a market. They have less than a week to come to a decision on whether or not they want to pick up the option on Foles or let him walk into free agency. So if they leak something to NFL Network, who of course link with the official NFL league, they're doing so to try and generate a discussion. Are there teams like John DeFilippo's now Jacksonville Jaguars who could be interested in his former quarterback? If so, this is the time they need to talk up, because if they don't, then the Eagles will just let Foles walk. He can choose a destiny with a market that's not there. If those conversations ripen, however, if there is a slim chance of a trade that the Eagles can really capitalise on and get something more than that third round pick in 2019, then this is where the action happens. I don't think this is an intent the Eagles are going to sign that option unless there is a trade. They're trying to see what the market is holding right now. If they do not like what they see, they're sort of like they're being fishermen. They're on a boat, it's 2 in the afternoon, they're trying to see if they can get a hook early on. If they can't, hey, we'll get a burger on the way back and we'll get home before it gets dark. They're not wasting time sat around at 7 in the evening for one catch of mackerel, and that is my take on this situation. If the Eagles sign Foles, it will be for a trade. If they don't, that's it. There is no possibility of this Leonard Fournette, Jalen Ramsey level BS that we're constantly seeing spouted out. These are mythical trades that are reliant on a Madden simulator, essentially. It's absolutely barbaric. You will not see a scenario that extreme. This isn't star power for star power. There is a $20 million cap hit at minimum that teams are very aware of, and they won't want to part with anything if there is a possibility they can get the player for free. I hope this video has tied up any loose ends. I know there's a lot on this situation going out right now, so if you have liked this kind of content, please leave a like, smash that subscribe button if you're new here to Philly Sports Network, and don't forget we do have new merch designs available, so check the link in the description. And from myself, Liam Jenkins, that's at LiamJenkins21 on Twitter. You can follow all of my work and our writers at phillysportsnetwork.com.